Grab your promise rings, Wargamers. It's time to take this relationship to the next level. We've been at it for almost a year, and in that time, we've had a lot of fun with a lot of different rule sets. But the one thing that's been consistent is that it's largely a solo wargaming channel. Today, I want to invite you to take the wheel and help steer this crazy train. And the way we're going to do that is by going through a campaign together. Now, unfortunately, I have not unlocked the prestige feat that allows me to put pulls into the system. If I can grab another couple of hundred subscribers, we'll start using pulls for that. But for now, I'm going to give you a couple of options, and I want you guys to just, if you're up for it, make some comments. We'll do it democratically, but like legitimately democratically, that, you know, whoever gets the most votes, that's who wins. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. There won't be any 4 a.m. shutdowns of the vote counts on this channel, my friend. And just to kind of get this out of the way, we're going to start off using Song of Gold and Darkness, Song of Blades and Heroes. This is going to be the tabletop rules that we use. And when we generate our characters that are going to run through this campaign, we're going to use these. At least to start, I do reserve the right to change rule sets based on how things develop in the campaign. And here is a map of the campaign world. Now, this is not the entire world. This is just the playground in which we're going to play. And let me tell you a little story about an empire that has been on its last legs for about 200 years. That has finally, about 5 to 10 years ago, it finally collapsed. And it specifically collapsed when the royal family was brutally murdered by foreign agents who pretended like they had the best interests of the nation at heart. One child managed to escape. That is our character. And I say our character because we're going to be working on this together. That character was out, I don't know, he was out at a daycare or a field trip when the balloon went up. And fortunately, his quick-thinking tutor spirited him out of the city and into the countryside, and they have spent the last 5 to 10 years on the lam. In fact, everyone is convinced that the double that was killed in his place was actually him, so nobody's really looking for the prince who is the rightful emperor. Now here we are, and as our campaign begins, the tutor has died, leaving our character all alone in this world with nothing but a few choice artifacts from his family. So give him a little bit of power boost there. And he's got 100 gold pieces. I'll explain how those get spent in a bit. For now, what you need to be aware of is that we're going to try to carve a kingdom out of the wilds here. And as you can see, this map has 4 permanent named locations. Down south is the keep that we will use as our headquarters. It's a day's hike away, and between the keep and the southern boundary is safe, relatively safe. There's a few scattered villages. There are patrols who keep the monsters at bay, and they're strong enough that the monsters stick to themselves. And I say monsters both human and of a more demonic bent. They tend to stay here in this valley because it's on the hinterlands of the empire. We're going to call it Hintervale. And these 3 sides of the paper are high mountains that are uncrossable except at Demon Pass and Dragon Pass. And you can guess why they're called that. You can guess who lives there. Down the line, we may want to open this pass. If we can get a solid base here, then we will unlock a trade route that will allow us to declare our own kingdom, right? But the other thing we have to do, even before we get that far, is clear Hellmouth Cathedral. This was a sacred site of the imperial religion that fell to demonic influence, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, and that influence spread, and, as the empire fell and the borders retreated, it's largely because of what's going on here in Hellmouth Cathedral. This is, to use the D&D parlance, our mega dungeon. It will be a 10-level mega dungeon, and ultimately, we need to clear that for sure. We also need to investigate these 14 locations. Each of these locations represents a setting and a faction. All right, I've got 14 factions, I've got 14 settings. How they interact and how they play off each other will be revealed through the course of the game. And I don't even know how that's going to work because this is going to be largely card-driven. Ace through 10, Jack, Queen, King, and Joker is the last of our locations. When we investigate one of these, I will deal 2 cards, one for the faction, one for the kind of setting, and that will drive the action along. What do I need from you guys? Here we get to the meat of it. Here we get to the poll section of this game. I need to know what kind of hero we want to do. We want to drive. Is he going to be based on mind, body, or spirit? Should he be a wizard type? Very low level, but maybe if we want, we can spend money on some upgrades. Should he be a fighter type, or should he be a holy man? Obviously, that would be the cleric. Whichever one we choose, we have a second set of choices we have to make, and that's whether he's going to fly solo. We have inherited 100 gold, and we're going to have to spend that gold to buy food, but we can also buy henchmen. And the question is, do I want to go with a fairly weak guy who hires an army to do his fighting for him? I mean, he'll be there and he'll be as good as anybody. But he's going to have to spend money on henchmen, and he's going to have to find gold in order to keep paying his henchmen. And he's going to have to get to a point where maybe even his henchmen are making more money for him than he's making on his own. And it may get to the point where he says, look, I'm going to hire 20 guys to go investigate this point, while I take 10 guys and go investigate this point. So we may actually have multiple bands of guys roaming around. And if we are able to clear portions of this map, then we'll kind of take it as it comes. But one of the things I should point out here is that there are 3 locations, 6, 12, and 10, that lie along the road. If you travel by road and you encounter one of those, you encounter it. We're going to figure out what it is. Travel is going to be 2 inches per day or 3 inches along the road. This is a cracked and broken and old road, but it's an imperial road, so it still lingers. But there are areas where it does need to be cleared. And particularly if we can clear the Hellmouth, then it opens up the routes, so we can save some time in travel is what I'm getting at. But what I need from you guys now, in the comments, do you want to see wizard, fighter, cleric? And do you want to see a guy that spends the bulk of his money on a nice small army? Do you want him to fly solo? Or we can even split the difference. He can hire a couple of very competent henchmen, a couple of sidekicks, and spend some money on some basic upgrades. So you tell me that, and I'll put together our rosters, and then we'll take a look at who we got and where we want to go and how we want to get started. Fundamentally, it's going to be, and you can talk about this right now amongst yourselves. Do we want to target spot 1, 2, 3, or 6? We can dive up the road. Now, bear in mind, for every day of travel, there's going to be a chance for a random encounter as well. And let me go over this one more time. I don't think I was clear. There are 14 locations because there are 14 cards in a deck. Okay? Not all of these are bad places, and not all of them will be hostile places. But eventually we may get into a situation where we're playing one group off of another. But I'll turn over one card to find out what kind of place it is. It might be a ruined city. It might be a thorny grove. It might be a abandoned mine. It might be an island on a lake is the lair of whatever lives there. I'll also turn over a card to find out who lives there. And I'm not going to tell you who all these people are, at least not yet. We'll discover that through the course of play. One thing I can do to give you a little preview is break out my one box of fantasy figures just to kind of show you, and I'll just grab this top rack to show you who we might be encountering. So for example, we might find, and it might be very strange because we may uncover one of those locations may be a stone bridge over an uncrossable river, which will add a further complications to our travel. But that stone bridge may be guarded by an army of the dead, in which case we'll be fighting undead. It might be guarded by, we might encounter a tower that is controlled by dark elves. We might encounter an old abandoned mine that is under the control of death cultists. The one thing I know for sure is that somebody is trying to crack open the Hellmouth, and we want to stop them. We want to beat the mega dungeon, beat the campaign, and carve out a kingdom of our own here in Hintervale. I just don't know how to do it. I need your help. Tell me what you think. Fighter, wizard, cleric, solo, big group, or a couple of bros? Give me your answers. We'll come back. I don't know when, but we'll come back as soon as possible, and I'll show you what we got. Until then, I'm praying for you.